And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore, where we never sit out. I'm your host, MD. Today, I just got an individual mock draft for you today. C and I are uploading both of ours, and this is only available on YouTube. So if you're watching this, thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're at 260 subscribers. Absolutely ridiculous numbers we've been putting up these last couple weeks. Thank you guys. It's all owed to you. If you want to check out our alternating mock drafts and even Christopher's mock draft, I will put that in the description of this video so you guys can check both of those out if you want to see what CD's doing. We got a little bit different mock drafts, a little bit different ways we're approaching this. And honestly, I had a very tough time with this draft. Very tough. I don't know what to do with the quarterbacks. I don't know what to do with the quarterbacks. I'm gonna spoil something. A couple days ago, I said that I don't think Bo Nix is going the first round. All I am hearing is that he is locked to go in the first round. So I made some adjustments. People are more plugged in than I am, so I'm just listening to the tea leaves, honestly. Some of these other ones though are based on valuations, some fits. I think I got a pretty decent mock draft together that benefit a lot of teams. I don't know how well it's gonna go, but thank you guys for tuning in and checking this out. I'm just gonna get started for you guys. The first pick, it's obviously Caleb Williams to the Bears. We've known this. All right, this is nothing new. If you've been listening to our channel and every other channel ever, okay, everyone's got Caleb Williams going number one. All right, the big thing happens at number two. It's like, what do you go from here, right? Like, is this Jaden Daniels? Jake May's plus 600 to go to number two, and that's what I'm gonna have. I'm gonna have him going number two. I just believe that he's the better prospect, and some people will disagree with that. But I just find it so difficult. And the best bets you saw us if you watched the other day, make sure you check that out. I have Drake May going number two as a best bet because it's value at plus 600, right? At plus 600, okay? The implied odds that Drake May goes number two overall is only 14%. You're telling me that there's only a 14% chance that Drake May goes number two? I say nay. I say nay. So I'm gonna have Drake May going number two, and I could totally be wrong about that. I don't feel great about it, but I think the value's there. I think the value's there. I thought the value was there plus 275. The fact that's screaming up to 600 is crazy to me. It's crazy. At number three, I have Jaden Daniels. Okay. This is a spot where I think if the Patriots don't get the quarterback that they want, that they could trade back and get some value. I know if Jaden Daniels is still there at three, the Raiders are going to do everything that they can to try to move up because Antonio Pierce was the one who did recruit Jaden Daniels to Arizona State back in the day. That is a possibility. I'm going to have the Patriots sticking and picking here, right? At number four, this is an interesting one because in a lot of our mock drafts, CD and I have had the Vikings trade up to number four to take JJ McCarthy. I'm not sure if the Vikings are going to trade up to this spot. They could. The thing is, though, is you got a generational prospect at wide receiver, and the Cardinals have to find the right market because the Cardinals also have another first round pick as well. At 27 from Houston last year. So the Cardinals they don't need to trade back and acquire more picks. They got plenty of assets here. So I'm under the impression that they'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. And then at five, this is a spot where the Chargers, I think Jim Harbaugh could say, hey, there's a lot of holes in our team. This is not a 1 year thing. Goes to GM, says, hey, maybe if we don't find our guy, trade back here. Their guy might be Marvin Harrison Jr., right? The Vikings might end up trading up to this spot. That's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have the Vikings trade up to number five to take JJ McCarthy. Now, do I also think that the Vikings are comfortable probably with Michael Penix or Bo Nix? That's very possible. And they could take either one of those guys at 11 too. But I think if you're moving on from Kirk Cousins, you have to get your guy. And if JJ McCarthy's their guy, I think they go move up and get him, right? But I don't know if he's their guy. But that's what I'm going to say. So Vikings are going to be trading uh, both of their first round picks to the Chargers. The thought was that when the Vikings traded the Browns for that first round pick, that the or was it the was it the Browns? Whoever they acquired that from, that they were going to use that asset to move up and get their quarterback. That's what I have here. All right, so the Chargers then will be picking at 11 and 23. Number 6 overall, the Giants. Feels like everyone has Malik Neighbors mocked them. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with Malik Neighbors at 6. He's a really good prospect. I like him a lot. I like Rome Odunze just as much, but it feels like the consensus. Remember, this mock draft isn't what I would do. This is what I think they would do. Okay, so Malik Neighbors, I have him going 6. Very, very good football player. Moves differently. He's got great body control. I wish that his contested catches were a little bit up to snuff. Not everyone is a Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Not everyone's Rome Odunze when it comes to contested catches, but I do wish Malik Neighbors had a little bit more of that. But you don't have to be an absolute dominant guy in catching traffic, just to be a good receiver in the NFL. You could do a lot of things right that ultimately makes you a good wide receiver. At number 7, put this one at Penn, Joe Alt. I know CD will have Joe Alt going somewhere else, but I like Joe Alt here, right? And I don't think the Titans would be afraid to take another tackle if Joe Alt wasn't there, but Joe Alt is the guy if he's there for them, right? You just got Callahan as your offensive line coach. He's done a great job developing offensive line. This is a match made in heaven. Joe Alt is an absolute unit in terms of his size, his ability, his finishing runs, his polish and pass protection. He's so good. He is clearly the number 1 tackle in this class. It's not even close. At number 8, I'm having an interesting one. I've never known what to do with this pick because I do think a lot of people have Dallas Turner here, but I think Quinyon Mitchell is so good, man. I think he's so good, and I think the Falcons do need help in the secondary. I like AJ Terrell, obviously, everyone does, but is Clark Phillips, are you gonna throw him out there again? I don't know that you are. I don't know that you are. And I think Quinyon Mitchell is like head and shoulders above these other guys at corner. And I don't know that some of these edges are that far apart, right? It just kind of depends what you want. And I don't know who the Falcons necessarily want, like what's going to fit in there. What I do know is that Quinyon Mitchell will fit into any defensive system, and he will absolutely dominate, and he will lock down. You have AJ Terrell and Quinyon Mitchell on either side, and I think you could have a very solid young cornerback duo for years to come. Then at 8, the Chicago Bears, they could take Roma Dunze here. They could take Byron Murphy here. They could take an edge rusher here because Lord knows that they need one for sure. But here's the thing. The Bears only have 4 draft picks, and Ryan Poles has been known to acquire assets, throw darts at the dartboard, if you will. I think if there's a spot where I think a lot of GMs consider Roma Dunze as a blue chip, a true blue chip prospect. And it just so happens that a lot of these teams haven't really needed a receiver. Now, granted, the Falcons they could draft Roma Dunze, but I wouldn't think so. The Bears could, but I just think that there's some teams that maybe want a wide receiver even more and would be willing to trade up for one. And I don't think I see a lot of people mocking this, but I have the Indianapolis Colts trading up to 9, the Chicago Bears, and taking Roma Dunze with that pick. I know everyone and their mom has a cornerback going there, that they could end up taking Brock Bowers. That's why they would trade up. But I think Roma Dunze is so good, man. You need to give Michael Pittman some help. You really, really, really do. Okay. And Roma Dunze, in terms of like the athletic profile, I think a 9.23 RAS score absolutely fits the bill. And even more than fitting the bill athletically for Chris Ballard's sake, the film. Roma Dunze is awesome. And also in crunch time, too. Like every time that there was like a big play down the stretch in some of those close games with Washington, it was Roma Dunze. Jalen Polk is a really good player. Jalen McMillan's a really good player. Washington found their run game down the stretch. But the reality is, Roma Dunze was a difference maker. Difference maker. I will say though, like tight end is a need for the Colts, but there are some other really good tight ends down the board. It's not as good of a tight end class as it was last year, as I thought. Or sorry, last year's class was really good at the tight end position. This year's not as strong, but I still think that there's some solid guys down the board. And this is a deeper receiver class, so I could understand the sentiment that, maybe they wouldn't trade it for a wide receiver because there are other good ones that you could even get in the second, maybe even third round. But Roma Dunze is that tier 1, right? He is that tier 1. And if you want to build something with Anthony Richardson, I think you got to get those tier 1 guys. And that tier 1 guy could be Brock Bowers too. Could be, but I really like Rome Odunze. So I'm gonna mock him there. And then the pick after to the Jets at 10. This is where I think a lot of people have Brock Bowers going. I am actually gonna have Byron Murphy here. The Jets love taking defensive linemen. Love it. And I don't think they're done either. They've taken some edge guys, they've taken some five techs. They still have Quinn and Williams, but I do think that there's a spot next to Quinn and Williams that you can throw a guy like Byron Murphy in there. Now, is he a better pass rusher than Jazon Newton? No. But boy, does he stuff the run. That secondary is so good for New York, right? Like, if you could just find a way to amplify that run defense, and that is what a guy like Byron Murphy does. That is what a guy like Byron Murphy does. He is the best run defending defensive tackle in the class. He's not the biggest guy, 6 foot, maybe about 290 to 300 pounds, but he moves really well, right? Javon Kinlaw, right? He was a good player when he was drafted, but it just not the best in run defense, right? We've seen that time and time again. So I do think that they could definitely take Byron Murphy here, in the hopes that he plays next to Quinn Williams, and then that run defense just kind of feels like it could be nasty. That defense would be nasty. And you might say, oh, why wouldn't they invest in, a wide receiver, uh, or something like that, to help out Aaron Rodgers? Well, Rome Dunze just went off the table, right? And they did sign Mike Williams. They do have Garrett Wilson. I do think that they need a wide receiver 3 badly, but I think they're going to get that one later in the draft. Let's go to number 11, Brock Bowers. I'm going to have him go to the Chargers. Man, we know Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, they love their tight ends. And if Brock Bowers is here, I think it's hard to pass up. He's a really good football player. And there's a chance that Brock Bowers goes sooner than this. The issue though is with Brock Bowers, like if he doesn't go here at 11, right? Like feels like I'd have a tough time finding out where he goes, figuring out where he'd be spotted. It feels like he could slip a little bit. Maybe a team like the Dolphins would trade up, at that point to get Brock Bowers, but I'm not gonna have him slip anymore. Sticking Brock Bowers at 11 because we know that Greg Roman loves his tight ends, and he would be ecstatic to have a guy like Brock Bowers on his team. At 12, I don't know if I'm falling for it or whatnot, but I'm gonna slip Bo Nix right here. Okay, at 12. I know I said in a previous video that I don't think Bo Nix would go in the first round, and I still back my head, like my gut tells me that him and Michael Penix won't, but the tea leaves these last 24 hours have been too strong for me to ignore. And I know Sean Payton missed out on Patrick Mahomes and he wanted to trade up for him. I don't think Sean Payton's going to go in the year with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. I think Bo Nix does a lot of similar things to Drew Brees. I think he's a better athlete than Drew Brees. I think he can be just as accurate as a passer, short the middle of the field. I don't know. I don't know. I'll stick with it though. Bo Nix at 12 to the Broncos. At 13, I know Michael Penix is connected, and a lot of people think that there are going to be 6 quarterbacks in the first round, but this is where my quarterback picking in the first round ends. Okay. I've got Fuanga, tackle from Oregon State, going here. The Raiders definitely need tackle, but you could also slip this guy at guard. I know a lot of people say that, and like they're like, "Oh, this tackle would be so good as a guard," and yeah, well, that's true, but like Fuanga has such a tenacity in the run game that, and I know you didn't re-sign Josh Jacobs, but if you have multiple positions of need on the offensive line, like the Raiders do, you take a guy with some kind of positional versatility, right? Like I wouldn't imagine playing Joe Alt at guard. He's just too big. He's just too tall. I could not necessarily see Amarius Mims playing guard, but like a guy like Fuanga could definitely play guard. Definitely play guard. So you're probably drafting him to try to play tackle because you want him to be as good as possible and you want him to uh, shore up that hopefully that right side. But man, he could be a dominant guard if they move him there. So Fuanga at 13 to the Raiders. At 14, I got the Saints. Dallas Turner, I have him slipping just a little bit outside of the top 10. I know it's gonna shock some of you. Uh Dallas Turner to the Saints. He doesn't have to go far from Tuscaloosa. And he's gonna end up in New Orleans. They do need edge rusher. I mean, they have some guys. I like Carl Granderson. Cam Jordan's getting kind of old. Uh, it still feels like they need some help at edge, and I think Dallas Turner could definitely be a boost right here. And he's probably to me the best player left on the board. So I'm gonna go with Dallas Turner. I do think that they could take Jerzon Newton here, which would not surprise me. Or Byron Murphy slips, like he could definitely go here as well. They could definitely take tackle. I don't know if they would like. They could take Amarius Mims here for sure to play right tackle if you're not sure. Ryan Ramczyk. If you have a really good idea that Ryan Ramczyk isn't going to play right tackle for you this next year, I would definitely consider taking Amarius Mims. I would definitely consider that. Or Troy Fontenot, either one. But I'm gonna stick with Dallas Turner there, which leaves the Bears. They get their choice of two different edge rushers because they need edge rushing, but more importantly, they need pass rushing. We saw that with Montez Sweat going into that defense, like it just injected life into that defense. You throw a guy like Leatu Latu on the other side, who I know he's got his injury, his medical red flags, and believe me, the Bears is someone who previously signed uh, uh, Larry Ogunjobi as a defensive tackle, and then he didn't pass his physical, so they let him walk. Um, the Bears staff is doing their due diligence in terms of health, and Leatu Latu. I mean, these were uh, the UCLA training staff. I mean, the same people that dealt with was it Jalen Phillips and his injury concerns. So that guy turned out pretty fine. So Leatu Latu, um, he comes back after medically retiring. He clears, he gets a fusion surgery, and it all works out. And he just still looks insanely athletic. Still looks insanely athletic. And he's just so bendy and he just comes out the edge so hard. Um, yeah, I mean, again, this is the same UCLA staff that medically that told Jalen Phillips, oh yeah, you should medically retire, and he did. And then he came back, played, and now he's a pretty good football player for the Dolphins. So I believe that Leatu Latu is fine. So put him at 15 for the Bears because remember, Colts item trading up to 9 to take Rome Dunze. At 16, the Seahawks. Couple needs here, mostly on the interior offensive line. But guess what? I think they can get that down the board. And I think there might be a run at some tackles coming up. I think there's some teams that might want a receiver here. I think the Bills are honing in on their guy. I'm going to have the Bills trade up to 16 to get their guy. And who's that going to be? Brian Thomas Jr.? No, it's going to be A.D. Mitchell from Texas. Yes, I really think A.D. Mitchell would be a good fit here. A.D. Mitchell and Brian Thomas are very similar players. They tested very similarly. Um, they had very nice production in college. Now, Brian Thomas had more production this past season than A.D. Mitchell did, but it doesn't mean that A.D. Mitchell is a worse player. I think A.D. Mitchell, I like him better than Brian Thomas, even though I like those guys both very much. I like those guys both very much. And I don't think they'll be drafted that much further apart from each other. But it's just going to be a preference thing. And I'm going to have A.D. Mitchell go to the Buffalo Bills. And I'm sure either one of those wide receivers would fill that role and play really well in that system. So the Buffalo Bills, they're going to trade up to 16, take A.D. Mitchell. I don't know what the value of that's going to be, like how much they're going to have to give up. But, I mean, they're moving up like 12 spots. So it could be a decent amount. Because, of course, we know how badly they need a receiver. At 17, the Jaguars. I can see them taking a couple different players here, but I'm going to go with Terrion Arnold. I think DB help is what they need a lot. And he, to me, is the second best cornerback in this class. He tested very well. He's not like a freak tester, but he is insanely athletic. And he had insane production this past season. He showed a lot of growth, learning that Kevin Steele defense this past year. I think he would fit really well there. And I think the Jaguars would be getting a good player. At 18, a lot of people have Byron Murphy here at 18 to the Bengals. I'm gonna stick on the defensive interior and take Jerzon Newton in the top 20. Yeah, Jerzon Newton in the top 20, 18 to the Bengals. Elite pass rusher from the interior. Yeah, some left a lot to be desired in the run game for sure, but I just think it's very hard to find a guy like this who's already insanely polished as a pass rusher. And we just saw like all these interior pass rushers just get paid. Man, they get paid. So I think there's going to be an emphasis on that position in the future. And I think there's two defensive interior linemen that just should be taken in the top 20 of this draft. I would argue that Jerzon Newton should be taken in the top 15. I don't know if I would hear arguments about top 10, but I would listen to you. I mean, that He's so good, man. He's so good. At 19, the Rams. Give me Marius Mims. Um, I think he's an outstanding player. You need right tackle. Okay. Sure. He's limited by the amount of snaps that he's taken. And yeah, he had a little bit of injury stuff, but none of those injury stuff's like I don't think it's a ton to be concerned about, right? I mean, this guy's similar size to Joe Alt. So if you're worried about his size and that leading to injuries, then you should also be worried about Joe Alt getting injured, right? Mary Smith is insane. He anchors well because he's huge. He finishes blocks. He finishes run blocks. Something that JC Latham does not do. Something that Olu Fashanu does not do. I think Amarius Mims will be the third tackle taken on the board if you follow our best bets. Amarius Mims, we threw him in at plus 1,300, and as I'm recording this after that, I believe it's already dropped down to like plus 1,000. So I think the market, I don't know. You never know what the market actually is saying in terms of draft day and why things are moving, but could be interesting. Could be interesting. So I have him as number 3 tackle off the board. The Steelers. They could take a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. here. I think they definitely could, but man, if Steeler fans see Dan Moore march out at left tackle one more season, I think they're gonna lose it. Here's where you take Olu Fashanu, right? Now I did discredit his run blocking just a minute ago, but he probably is one of the best pass blockers in this class. Probably would have been one of the best pass blockers in last year's class. He's just so polished there. He's just so polished. Um, yeah, sure. There's some left to be desired in the run game there, but overall, that left tackle position has been a glaring weakness, and Olu Fashanu will has exclusively played left tackle the last few seasons. I think this would be a fantastic pick for the Steelers if he fell to 20 here. That'd be if he falls to 20 here. You never know. Tackle is such a preference thing, like who's fitting where. Like I'm sure not a lot of people expected Darnell Wright going to the Bears as early as he did, but that was a fit thing. That was it's worked out really well for the Bears. So hopefully this could work out for the Steelers. At 21, the Dolphins, I think they would have liked Jer'Zhan Newton. I think they might be in the market to trade up for Brock Bowers to just improve that offense even more. I'm gonna have Troy Fontanu from Washington, the tackle. I'm gonna have him going here to the Dolphins. I think he could play guard, but you probably want him to play tackle. I think he profiles better as a tackle, but you could have him playing guard here, right? Because you didn't re-sign Robert Hunt. And I could also see them drafting like Graham Barton or JC Latham here. Um, slip him down the guard to make up for that Robert Hunt signing that Carolina did, taking him away. But yeah, I think Bonson could play uh, tackle or guard. Plus Armstead, when was the last time he played a full season, right? Even if he's not starting day one, I don't think the Dolphins wouldn't be upset to have another nice piece that they can move around the offensive line in case Armstead goes down again, right? So, uh, give me the Dolphins taking Troy Fontanu from Washington. At 22, the Eagles are going to take Cooper DeJean. Yep. I think they just had a ton of injuries in the secondary last year and a lot of moving pieces. They did resign CJJ, uh, or CGJ, CJ Gardner John, CJG, CJGJ. Sorry, CJ Gardner Johnson. He'll probably play slot corner for them, nickel, whatever. And Cooper DeJean could play that, but he could also play safety. He could play corner. Like he could play wherever, and that's the beauty of what he offers to these teams is that positional flexibility in the secondary, right? If injuries happen again, or if you bring in a new defensive coordinator, like whatever it is, like he will fit any system and can play any position. That's his value, right? And I could see the Eagles taking a chance on a guy like Nate Wiggins, but with the injury history and the Eagles already experiencing bad luck and injuries at the defensive back spot last year, I like them with Cooper DeJean. Now, a guy who also got injured, but he ran at his pro day and he ran insanely well. So I don't think there's anything to worry. And he broke his leg, right? So and breaks heal very nicely. So I'm not worried about Cooper DeJean. At 23, if you remember, the Vikings traded up. Um, with the Chargers at 5 in this mock draft. So the Chargers will be picking at 23, and I'm gonna have him taking Brian Thomas Jr. because he slipped all the way to 23. Yep. You don't have Mike Williams. You don't have Keenan Allen. Who are you throwing out there at wide receiver this year? That's a question that needs to be answered. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. was available at 5, I think that would be an absolute home run pick. In this mock draft, we had the Arizona Cardinals taking him at 4. So you missed out on that, right? You missed out on Marvin Harrison Jr., but you're not going to make the mistake of missing out on this guy, Brian Thomas Jr., probably the last player in this tier of receivers, if you ask me. Um, I think he's a very good football player. 6'3", over 200 pounds. Can fly around like a 4.3 40. He's great in contested catch. He's got great body control. He had insane production this past season. He had a high profile as a recruit. He's insane, right? And marching out there with Josh Palmer, Quinn Johnston, and Darius Davis, I don't know if that's the move. All right, I don't know if that's the move. So I'm having taking Brian Thomas Jr. here at 23. Let's go 24 to the Cowboys. You need a lot of help on the offensive line. They're about like minus 215, minus 230 to take an offensive lineman here. Depending on the book you look at, of course. Graham Barton at 24. And thank God, because I don't want him going to the Packers at 25. Just the positional flexibility. Like, do you want he might be he played tackle for Duke, but he might be his best at center or even guard. But he could also play tackle too. Like, he is so positionally versatile. Like, he can actually play all positions and he can play them at a high level. Right. And that's where his value is. So um Cowboys needing help in multiple places on the offensive line. I think Graham Barton is just a good piece that can help you kind of figure out like where everyone goes as you're trying to go into this next season. I mean, Zach Martin, you have a guard, but I mean, how long is he going to be there, man? I mean, he's old. Terrence Steele, you like, but TJ Bass, Brock Hoffman, like, are you just going to play them at guard and center? I don't know. I don't know. So I like drafting Graham Barton and potentially moving him on the inside. At 25, the Packers, I'm going to have him take J.C. Latham. The Packers, look, they actually have a really good roster. I hate to say that. The Green Bay Packers actually have a pretty solid roster. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, would JC Latham play left tackle? Probably not, but I think he could play guard. I think he would be an even better guard than he would be a tackle. I know how huge he is, right? People are probably talking to me like, this is ridiculous. Why would you have JC? I think he might profile better as a guard. You know, he eh, look, I don't love JC Latham. I know Daniel Jeremiah had JC Latham mocked in the top 5, simply because of his length, but he doesn't finish run blocks. It just and he's like okay in pass protection, but more than anything, it's just like he's so strong in that core. He can just anchor so well. So like, if he gets beat, like kind of like or gets out of position, right, he can just anchor and kind of stay there. But who knows if that's gonna work at the NFL level? Like there's gonna be bigger, faster, stronger guys. I do think the Packers would be interested in picking JC Latham here. I think if Cooper Jean slipped to 25, I think they would consider taking him. I just have JC Latham here. So uh, we'll see. We'll see what the Packers do with that spot. At 26, the Buccaneers, they need help on the edge. I know you just got Yaya Diaby and you like him a lot, but you lose Shaq Barrett. Give me Jared Verse here. All right, he slipped to 26 on my mock draft. I still think he's a very good player, a high floor, high motor player. I'm sure they'd be very happy to draft a guy like him. Right, I do have a higher grade on Dallas Turner and Leatu Latu, but Jared Verse still is a very good edge, and he does both things. He does well in the run game, and he does well in the pass game, right, as a pass rusher. I think he's just very good. He's just very, very good. At 27, the Cardinals, man. I had a tough time with this pick at 27. Because you did take Marvin Harrison Jr., so you're not going to take a wide receiver. I mean, you could, you could double dip in the first round at wide receiver, but I think there's some wide receivers that you can get down the board. Um, so I'm perfectly fine with just sticking and picking, getting some help on the offensive line here in the interior, and I have them taking Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, the center, who can also play guard. Just a powerful guy, just a powerful, powerful. I think he's like 320 pounds. This guy can move bodies. Did great at the Senior Bowl. I'm very, very high on Jackson Powers Johnson. I could see him going a lot higher than this. I think the Seahawks would be upset because I think they traded down. Uh, not necessarily think that they would get Jackson Powers Johnson, but uh, I think the Seahawks would take him if he was still on the board for them at 28. Because if you remember, we had the Seahawks trading back with Buffalo, so Buffalo could take Adonai Mitchell. Let's go here then to the Seahawks at 28. I have them taking Zach Frazier. They need interior help so bad. And you're like, well, Zach Frazier's a center. Dude, he can play guard, bro. He was an All-American at left guard for West Virginia. Like, just so chill. I mean, he's fast. He moves really well. Um, he has good leverage. He's got good balance. I like him a lot as a player. I don't see a lot of people mocking him in the first round, but we've seen guys that were at interior offensive linemen when teams have needed interior offensive linemen reach. We've seen teams reach. We saw it happen with Cole Strange. I think it could happen here with Zach Frazier at 28. At 29, the Lions kind of have their pick at DB here. Do you go Nate Wiggins or do you go Kool-Aid McKinstry? And I'm going to have him take Kool-Aid McKinstry. Guy's got good chemistry with Brian Branch. He's just a very good player. Nate Wiggins, yeah, is faster. I get it, but Kool-Aid can still run with guys, right? He still is a burner. Um, his fantastic film. If people really watch Terry Arnold and they're like, wow, his ball skills are amazing. And there's so many highlights of Terry Arnold making plays on the ball because people were actually throwing it at him. People did not throw Kool-Aid McKinstry. They did not. He has 3 years of starting at a cornerback for Alabama. It's 3 years of very, very, very good production. He is a fantastic player. I think he'll be a solid corner. He might not be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro ever in his career, but he's going to be a solid corner for you that will fill a hole, fill a need. Um, so Lions are going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry here at 29. At 30, Jordan Morgan is kind of tied to the Ravens right here. So I'm gonna have him draft Jordan Morgan. I do think that they could also take a guy like Tyler Guyton and other guys to tackle. I think they could take a wide receiver here. Uh, but I'm gonna have him take Jordan Morgan. I don't see Jordan Morgan in a ton of first round mock drafts, but he's gonna be here on mine at the 30 spot for the Ravens. 31, San Francisco 49ers. They could go a couple different ways. I do like the idea of Ladd McConkey here at 31. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft and stash a guy like Tyler Guyton, a guy that's got wicked tools. If you look at this 49ers roster, right, and you might think, oh, they should be using this first round pick to really fill some holes. And I'm like, what holes are you guys looking at that I'm not looking? It's not a wide receiver. It's mostly not on the offensive line, although tackle could be a spot that they could down. Obviously, you're set at left tackle, but it could be interesting uh, thing at right tackle that you got going on there. Tight end, you're fine. Quarterback, you're good. On defensive line, you have Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Nick Bosa. Uh, Still got Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, and then you signed Javondre Campbell for linebacker. You could go corner here. You could go Nate Wiggins, I think, but I think Tyler Guyton, I think a lot of people are in love with the tools that he has. And I think this could be a draft and stash guy. And if he learns from some of the best guys that have tools like Trent Williams, like he could be a really good player. He just won't probably start day one, or you won't be ready to start day one. But who knows? In a 17-game season, by the end of the season, when the 49ers are making a playoff run, like he could be a guy that they rely on to make plays in the run game and pass game. At 32, the Chiefs, this is a wide receiver. All right. It is. And the question is, who do you take here? Because you have a lot of guys. Like, do you go Ladd McConkey? Do you go Keelan Coleman? There are a few others that you could look into, but I am in love with one receiver, right? And this might be a little bit rich, but we've seen the Chiefs, reach a little bit on guys that they like. Okay. And it's worked out, because Patrick Mahomes is just a good quarterback. Um, I really like Ricky Pearsall a lot, man. He's a great route runner. He's got fantastic hands, unbelievable contortion of the body in the air, the ball skills. I think he does a lot of things right, and he's super experienced. I think he would get right in that offense, and he would make a huge impact. I do think Xavier Worthy is a play here as well with that speed, but I think the Chiefs had too many drop problems last year. So I do think Ricky Pearsall Pearsall or Keon Coleman would be better options, or even Lad McConkey, right? Lad McConkey could be good because of that speed. Yeah, this is the Chiefs here at 32. I haven't taken Ricky Pearsall, but they could go with any one of those four guys that I named: David Worthy, Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey, or Ricky Pearsall. I just happen to have a preference of Ricky Pearsall. I would really like to see that for the Chiefs, or not, because I mean that would be pretty dangerous. But yeah, that's my individual first round mock draft. Make sure you guys check out CD's video. That will be posted, the link to that in the description of this video, and you guys get to check that out. Also, check out our alternating 2-round mock draft as well. Guys, it's draft day. If you're watching this, it's you're likely watching this the morning of Thursday, right, on the draft. So I don't know how many of you guys are gonna get to see this before the draft, but I'm so pumped. Sheedy and I will be recapping the draft Thursday nights. Be sure you guys are checking that out, and we'll also be recapping that either Saturday night or Sunday, and we'll probably be posting that on Monday if I had to guess. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll be done with the NFL draft coverage, and we'll be all eyes and ears on college football in the upcoming 2024 season. So make sure you guys, if you guys are coming for the NFL draft content, just stick around for the college football content. All right, we got plenty of it here. We love doing what you do. We appreciate the support. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all the business, and share this with people that you think would also be interested in this. We're not maybe the best channel out there yet, but we're learning a lot as we go, and we love doing this for you guys. So thank you guys so much. We'll see y'all in the next one.